I feel so official. Ladies and gentlemen, Cover Killer Nation, it is now June, which means that at the end of this month, it will be officially one half of the year over here in 2015, but we have so many heavy hitters that'll be coming out here within the next couple of months that we might as well right here, right now. Now, in order for us to construct this list, a couple of rules need to be followed. For one, I have to have had listened to the album, and I had to have reviewed it as well. I know there's a lot that I probably missed over the course of the first half of this year. Let me know just in case I end up getting to them before the top 35 list in December. So, let's get started. Oh, and the second rule, of course, is the fact that these are all going to be heavy metal albums, so there will not be a reference to Kendrick Lamar's To Pimp a Butterfly, which right now is the runaway winner of non-metal album of the year, and I think that's going to be the same for a lot of people. So let's get started. Let's talk about the top 10 heavy metal albums of 2015 thus far. Number 10, we have Paradise Lost with The Plague Within. We just talked about this album, but it is that good. It's the fact that this is an album that has insane amounts of replayability. I have been literally playing this album over and over again, ever since prior to constructing the review and after constructing the review. It's kind of been consuming me a little bit. The 86 score that I gave it would probably be a little bit higher right now in my mind, but that's the reason why these things fluctuate and why these lists are never set in stone once we make it to the top 35 of 2015. This is a great album by these guys, their 14th, which really combines their doom and gothic metal stylings very nicely, pairing them together in order to create something that they have not created in quite some time, which is a bona fide Paradise Lost classic album. This is a great disc. I highly recommend it. Like with all the rest, there's going to be a link to all of the album reviews that will be within the posting or the little photograph of the album cover that you see somewhere around me. I highly recommend you check out all of these reviews. Number 9, we have Napalm Death with Apex Predator Easy Meat. This is from January of this year, so very early on we had a real frontrunner for Album of the Year. Napalm Death really needs no introduction. They're a fantastic band that have been around since the 80s, making just killer grind records that are able to combine a little bit of this and that with their core sound. But with Apex Predator, they started off with their longest track, something that was a little bit out of character and out of sorts for them, and then after taking up all of that space with track number 1, proceed to blister through the remainder of their album at breakneck pace, giving no breaks to the listener. This is a great disc based around its consistency and also based around the quality of its material. Number 8, we have Here Comes the Sun by the band Clone. Clone is a phenomenal product that a lot of people haven't heard of, and this needs to be their breakout year. Clone is a tremendous band that's able to combine progressive rock with a little bit of really heavy alternative or progressive alternative with a little bit of a stoner or a psychedelic twist to it. Really, this is a band that's so unique. They're very one of a kind, and that's what really is the draw. But Here Comes the Sun really is able to follow on the heels of some of their previous albums and delivering just great material for this. This is an easy album to put onto and listen to all the way through. Not to mention whenever they expand their horizons and go deeper and deeper into 5 and 6 minute long territories, they are really one of the best bands of this variety in the business right now. Do yourself a favor and check out this band and check out this album if you haven't already. A lot of you have said thank you to me for exposing you to Agalloch. Well, I think just as many of you will thank me for exposing you to Clone. Number 7, we have Arcturus with Arcturian. This is the album that was 10 years in the making, and it delivered in leads and then some. This is a great disc from these weirdos from all the way out in Spaceland, which constructed yet another space metal opera that has avant-garde influences, progressive influences, even some black metal spattered in there, and this is one that just is rich in the tapestry, rich in the texture, rich in the atmosphere, and just is able to deliver on all levels. 10 years seems like a long wait, and believe me, as a fan, it was, but this album made it worthwhile. Now, is it as good as classics such as the Sham Mirrors? Man, that's going to be up to the ear of the listener, but I will say this. This is one that, for waiting 10 years to hear new material from the group, I am certainly satisfied. Number 6, we have Entrails with Obliteration. This was a huge surprise. This was a wow. Did not expect this to come at all. Entrails deliver just a fantastic slab of death metal that has a little bit of a melody to it, that has a little bit of a real dirtiness to it, and this is their material that's actually considered a little more polished. This is a band that has been active since the 90s, but only recently really got their records flowing. They had a long period of inactivity before starting their career anew in the latter portions of the 2000s, and really this is just a culmination of tremendous ability, combining with breakneck riffing, just terrific vocalization. The whole thing just leads to a very gritty and dirty and nasty atmosphere that is almost impossible to avoid. This is a great disc, one that I highly recommend, and something that's been a bit underappreciated, so check out the review. Number 5, we have Plus 4626 Comfort Zone by Beardfish. Beardfish is quickly becoming one of my favorite progressive metal groups, or progressive rock groups, whatever you want to call them, one of my favorite progressive groups, period. Just the way in which these guys are able to really evoke a lot of emotion through their singing, and not to mention their style and their overall songwriting ability just continues to yell from afar, from down in the depths of obscurity, pay fucking attention to me, and you really should. If you're a fan of progressive metal, if you're a fan of progressive rock, if names like Dream Theater and Pain of Salvation make you wet, there is no excuse for you not to check out Beardfish. These guys are some of the best in the business, and they are a band that deserves to have that kind of treatment. Number 4, we have Beyond the Red Mirror by Blind Guardian. Blind Guardian have delivered here in 2015 just an absolute trademark classic album. This one combines great storytelling with phenomenal songwriting, just terrific composition, and just put it all together in something that is truly magical. This is a really difficult album to tear yourself away from, and it's one that is able to execute on every level and every sense of the Blind Guardian way. I just love the way this album flows. I just love how they're able to causate this disc and make it just work on every single level. It's something that's so difficult to do, and whenever you consider the complexity of some of these arrangements, it makes it even more difficult, which also makes it all the more amazing to behold and listen to. Man, this is a great disc. I still have this in my car 4 months after its release, and it's also consequently the last album that I purchased before I parted ways with the music store I worked with. Number 3, Leprous with the Congregation. Speaking of prog, this is the 3rd mention that we've had of these guys in a week, so obviously these guys are worth something if I'm giving them this much credit. These guys are, of course, the backing band for Ihsahn's first couple of live tours, and they have had a nice career of their own with some great albums that have been kind of criminally underrated. But with the Congregation, these guys are really poised to break out. This is the first album of theirs where they don't have a track that exceeds the 10-minute mark, but yet they're able to do so much with the time that they have. If you haven't scoped out the song Slave, which was mentioned in the most recent episode of 10 Awesome Songs, you are really doing yourself a disservice, and if you haven't scoped out this album by now, after twice we've told you to do it here on this channel, you really need to make the time. It is a magical release. It is recent, but it is one that is very well deserving of its placement on this list. It's going to be a contender come December. Number 2, In Times by Enslaved. Speaking of contenders in December, Enslaved, of course, a couple of years ago, scored the Album of the Year with Axoma Ethica Ordine, which was it's a disc that to this day still gives me goosebumps and still leaves me begging for more. And ever since then, they have just been delivering great albums. They were delivering great albums before that. I can remember albums such as Below the Lights blowing my mind, and even Run. But In Times just really revisits a lot of that magic that was present with Axoma Ethica Ordine. A lot of those same feelings kind of were awash within me whenever this album was being played, whenever I was listening to it, reviewing it. It really gave me a lot of that same feeling. These progressive black Viking metal titans, whatever the hell you want to call them, just continue to get better with each progressive album. It's incredible what they're able to do. Who knew in the 90s, whenever these guys were strict Viking metal, that they were going to become this diverse and this much of a giant monolith within heavy metal today? Number 1, though, we have Hand Cannot Erase by Steven Wilson, which has so far yet to lose its perfect score. A couple of months ago, whenever Hand Cannot Erase was reviewed, I gave it a perfect score because it was an album that was able to capture everything perfectly. This is not something that has been shared with a lot of people, and I understand that. Everybody has a different opinion, the potato-potato effect. But for me, this is the album not only of Steven Wilson's solo work, but also of the Porcupine Tree discography that really just captures everything perfectly. It captures the emotion beautifully. It captures the music on a level that I have not heard Steve do in quite some time. I think the only album within this discography, Porcupine Tree and Steven Wilson combined, that comes anywhere close is Fear of a Blank Planet, if not The Sky Moves Sideways. This is one that's really just tremendously on point. It has a lot of diversity to it, not to mention some of the tracks, such as Happy Returns, are just songs that you return to over and over and over again because you can hear the passion or the heartbreak. You can hear all of the emotion. Every single iota of feeling is emitted on each and every one of these songs, and that's why it has the high score, not to mention the lofty persona that it does. This is one that really transforms you emotionally and takes you on the journey instead of just merely guiding you through it. Instead, it feels like you're experiencing it, so you're experiencing the celebrations, but you're primarily experiencing the heartbreaks. It's a very emotional album, one that for some folks may be difficult to sit through based around their own lives. However, this is a disc that can move mountains and transform lives. I highly recommend this one. Please, if at very least, click on the link up there for the review, which explains this album even better than I just attempted to do in the past 2 minutes. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. 10 albums that have so far set the bar pretty high here in 2015. I understand there were many that I missed in these past 5 months. I do apologize for that. However, we do have a number of months and a number of massive releases, such as Ahab, Nile, Lamb of God, such as Cradle of Filth or Slayer, that are coming here in the future very, very closely. We have Ghost, which just released probably one of the best songs of the summer. Then these are all coming just within the next couple of months with even more anticipated releases on the way. So this list by no means is set in stone, but what is your top 10 list so far for 2015? Who has been the exceptional, exemplary showcase of excellence for you? Let me know in the comments below and tell me what you think about some of the albums that were on this list. Thank you all very much and have a good summer.